Okay. Well, we had to reset this thing again. Have to do that every time. I want to welcome everybody to the last meeting of insurance prior to crossover. No more meetings after this one until we start looking at those Senate bills. And there may not be very many meetings on those either. Because I've seen about 6 or 8 of them that's come in here, and then some of them are not pretty. I don't know what they do over there. Would you lead us in prayer? What's your number, 20? Chairman Lumsden will lead us in prayer.
Almighty, most holy Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the love you give us to us. Lord, God, you know, we care for us. We thank you, Lord, for the opportunity that you've given to each of us to live this day. We thank you for the opportunity that we have to serve you, to serve this great faith. We just ask that you give us your wisdom and your guidance, and we seek to do your will in this regards to everything before us today. We pray in Jesus' name for this day. Amen.
Thank you, sir. Just a little housekeeping. House Bill 799 is removed from the agenda this morning. Now, for those of y'all who have not heard, Chairman Cooper's car got stolen last night. I hope she did too. From what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, she was filling up with gas and her car got hijacked and they took her everything. But the most serious part, by far, there was a new pair of shoes in there that she lost.
Now you're really getting to it.
Now you get it. That's bad. Really sorry that had to happen to you.
She's okay.
Yeah, the important part is you're fine, other than being a little stressed.
Mr. Chairman, ran through my mind when I chaired the committee on CON a few years ago, and
Bless your heart.
lots of you weren't here. They told me that in Florida, when they did it, they had to send the legislator's family out of state and give the legislator a bodyguard. And so it was pretty bad up here, but we didn't go to that. But, since there's so much misunderstanding about 799, I would sort of went through my mind if somebody had, in that issue, had planned to take my car.
He just said hospital folks.
That's right, like that. So anyway.
I'll drive you home today if that. I'll take you home today. If you need to.
I think my aide lives close and will take me home because I don't have a way to get there. So thank you. And it's my understanding we're going to work on 799. It's not going away.
No, it's not going away. We'll work on it between now and January and have it ready for the first week of January, and we'll go.
Okay.
Right now, we'll take a look at House Bill 519.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sort of ill prepared. I don't have the papers. 519 is was called the step therapy bill. What it is it just lays out some parameters. If a person has been denied a medication on their insurance, thank you very much, on their insurance plan, and it gives some parameters about what the doctor could do to appeal that decision. People shouldn't have to, if they've been on one insurance plan and they had to switch to another, which is happening very often these days, if they failed on that other insurance plan on the medicine, they shouldn't be made to fail again. And we're talking about very serious illnesses. People with Crohn's disease, people that have sickle cell anemia, and if they bleed, can run up a hospital bill of $1 million or more, plus all the damage it does to their body. The doctor has to give very complete records. If they put somebody on sample drugs, that doesn't mean that's a failure. So the law clearly spells out what to do. Because really, we're trying to do something that will help patients and help the doctors when they are going to appeal a denial. Doesn't make the insurance agree with them. It just says, you know, these are good reasons for you to look at this appeal again with more in-depth knowledge from the patient's own physician to make and see if you need to review your decision. And that's basically what the bill does.
To begin with, I want to thank Chairman Cooper and all the parties involved in their meeting over the last several weeks to get this final draft put together. They've done a lot of work to get this to this point, and I appreciate that. I don't see any questions, any lights lit up as it relates to House Bill 519. I know it passed out of subcommittee yesterday. I think it was a unanimous vote, if I remember right. So I guess I'm kind of waiting on the pleasure of a move to pass and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I look forward to working with you over the summer. And hopefully, as we did on this bill, all the parties will come and talk about it, and I hope that all the hospitals that are involved will come and talk about 799 with us. And
We'll get it taken care of. It'll probably drop first week of next session.
thank you very much.
Thank
sir.
you. Go see Mr. Meadows. Mr. Meadows, get your paperwork.
Oh, well, and please, before the hospitals go out, I was teasing. I really don't think that Brandon ordered it. So can I make it perfectly clear? Before I hear I've accused him of doing a carjacking.
Sounds Brendan had a hat on.
Yeah. Okay. All right, 878, Mr. Clark. You can go down there, or you can sit right where you're at, but it doesn't matter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Have 878 before you today. Currently, in Georgia law, in order for an insured to cancel their policy, they have to provide a written or electronic notification. This just also allows for an insured person to cancel their policy via phone call. It still allows for the insurer to require written notification if they so choose. It does not get rid of that in case they have an interest in some kind of written policy to protect themselves. And it also, if they do cancel the policy via phone call, if the insurer allows that, it puts policy in place that they still have to document that in the file of the insured. And
Okay.
that's
So it
pretty
gives
much
you
the bill.
some options on,
Yes, sir.
okay, number 18.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a friendly question.
Okay.
What was the genesis of this bill? What are we fixing, and where did it come from?
My understanding is we're one of only a handful of states that do not currently allow this ability to cancel a policy via a phone conversation, phone call.
So it didn't come from a constituent. It came from where?
Different organizations. There's some people here that could address that, but in the industry.
Thank you.
I think the industry is the one that brought this. Okay. Number 15?
Well, I had the same question, Mr. Chairman. I think that's probably about the craziest thing I'd want to do with my insurance agency. I mean, I'm sorry, but I've had people call all the time and say, I'm going to cancel my insurance, blah, blah, blah. I said, great. Send me a text, send me an email, send something in writing with your name, phone number. I'm not canceling anything over the phone. That's too big a risk for insurance agencies and E&O. Next thing you know, you cancel a policy and somebody's going to drive around and have a wreck and then say, oh, I didn't call you until you I didn't tell you to cancel. I mean, what kind of deal is that?
Well, so for you as an agent, you in line 12 through 14, that's still covered. You could still require the written. It's not taking away that.
Right.
And if an agency does or an insurer does allow this, they would still have to document it, properly document it in the file.
I'd be afraid to be insured with anybody that would take a phone call for a cancellation. I would question their judgment, to be honest with you.
Okay. Do I hear any more questions as it relates to this? As a point of, number 17.
Representative Heath, Clark, thank you for bringing this. I'm just wondering, I understand the bill. I'm just wondering, was this brought to you by a group, a constituent? What is the origin and the reason for bringing this forward?
It was brought to me by a group, by the industry, and they're here if they want to address the origin behind that.
Okay, that would be the chairman's prerogative because we usually don't take testimony in a full committee, but could you elaborate on that some more?
They just came to me explaining the situation, explaining how most other states, I think, like I said, we're one of maybe 5 states that do not allow this, and that it was in their interest to allow it. Because currently under the way it is, if somebody does call and they fail to provide the written notification, and they still, a lot of times they're still getting, well, they still will get billed, and they thought they had canceled the policy, and next thing they know, they have collections or something because they failed to pay, and because they thought they had canceled the policy. So it's just addressing that. It's providing options. It's not requiring it. It's just providing options.
Okay. We do have someone to identify who you are, who you're with, so.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Stacy Freeman. I represent the Property Casualty Insurers Association of America. That's a national property and casualty trade association, approximately 1,000 members, and a lot of them, they write approximately 44% of the auto market in the United States. Thank you for your indulgence in testifying this morning. I'll be very brief, and thank you, Representative Clark, for bringing the legislation. Specifically, the question earlier, Mr. Chairman, regarding why it's needed. Well, what happens is folks can purchase insurance over the phone, so they think I should be able to cancel it over the phone. So when they call and they don't cancel, then what the insurer does responsibly, or the agent does responsibly, is of course continue that insurance on or renew it, and then send an invoice for it. Of course, the insurer doesn't pay that because they said they've canceled it, and then the insurer's under an obligation to send a cancellation notice. Well, as some in the industry know, cancellation of a policy can be a negative issue when applying for other coverage. So what we're seeking to do is allow it to be optional for agents and insurers to do it in this manner if they so choose. And as earlier testified to, Georgia is in the minority, if you will, as far as states that require the policy to be returned or a writing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's see, number 26 had a question earlier.
Sure. Representative Clark, thanks for bringing this. I just had a question if you would consider an amendment to it, basically saying if they use a recorded line, that way you have a record. Because I see why you're bringing this, and I do have seniors in my district who don't use email, don't have access to it, don't use text or anything. So I think they would appreciate the flexibility to be able to cancel over the phone. But I understand the concerns that if there's no record of that cancellation, I can understand with the larger insurance companies, most things are on a recorded line, so you have a record if there's a dispute. But for the smaller carriers, it could be an issue.
So my understanding is in line 13, the recorded line would be an electronic verification that they could still allow. That would be my understanding. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Okay. I see no more. Oh, now you're on, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Clark, and this is having to do with the legal side of it possibly, but in my background, people get divorces all the time, and they have car insurance or health insurance or insurance on their homes, and the minute that they separate, one party wants to be sure that they do whatever they can to the other party, so they would call their insurance agent, and I've seen it, I can say hundreds, not just a few times, and cancel the insurance for the car particularly, or the home, or even the apartment they're living in. And I just see this as a real problem. If I could call up over the phone and say, cancel the insurance on my F-150 truck, and that's the truck that my now separated wife is driving, without some type of other verification. And I just see it as a real problem, at least in the real world.
To that was one of the questions I had when this idea was being brought before me. They would still go through all the verification processes to cancel a policy, even over the phone, because they could do that now. That same concern could exist with an email or a text message that would have to be provided. So that there's already procedures and policies that these companies have in place to protect against that. Because as it was earlier mentioned, that some companies, a written notification is even a text message to a certain number. And so it's that easy that that they already have built-in policies to protect against, that they go through before they cancel a policy, to ensure specifically against that kind of stuff, or any other kind of malicious attempt by a hacker or things of that nature as well.
Could I have one
Yes, sir.
follow-up, Mr. Chairman? And I understand that what you're saying concerning that, but at least with that text or email or written, if somebody wrote it, and it certainly could be somebody not the party, there's then at least something that can be taken to a court or someplace else and straighten it out, other than just a phone call, and that's my only issue.
And I would say that that's where lines 21 through 22 would even come into play with this, is that it's still required that it be the phone call be documented in the file as well.
Okay. Number 17.
I'm active over to here today, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
My apologies. And Representative Clark, I apologize for not coming to you with this earlier. You mentioned how many states do, and excuse me, how many states do and do not allow, say, like Chairman Maxwell was saying, a verbal conversation to be used for canceling such a policy?
I don't have any of that on paper in front of me, but it was told to me it's only a handful of states that do not allow it this way.
And Georgia's one of those?
And Georgia's one of those.
Okay.
And other states aren't having an issue with some of the concerns that we've had today.
Okay. I hear what you're saying, and I definitely want to help. To Representative Shannon's point in regard to, I think you were talking about voicemail, recorded types of telephone conversations. If I could just offer, I want to help you with this. If I could just offer I hope it'll be a friendly amendment. Is now the time to propose an amendment, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
or
sir. Go ahead.
Okay. On line 13, I just want to be very clear about the, Representative Clark, about the electronic verification. I would propose, on line 13, may require that the insured provide written, remove the word or and put comma, and then electronic, and then insert the words or audio verification. Can I ask for the author's feedback? Is that?
Okay, so let me be sure everybody understands. So beginning on line 12, it says, the insurer or its duly authorized agent may require that the insured provide written, comma, electronic, or audio verification of the request.
That's correct. Can I, Mr. Chairman, can I ask the author what his opinion of that amendment is?
I don't see a problem with that. I'm fine with that because I think the electronic would cover that, but I'm fine with adding the word audio to make sure that all bases are covered.
I just wanted to be very clear about that. Like I said, I want to help, particularly if we're an outlier, but I just want to make sure that this is very clear in the statute. Could I ask Representative Shannon's opinion of this clarification?
Could I kind of jump in on this?
Yes, sir.
Representative Blackman just made a good point. He said, why not go with ensure provide written, comma, electronic, comma, audio, or other verification.
I'm perfectly happy with that too. If
Is that what you?
Well, I was gonna replace audio with other, just other, and just say written, electronic, or other verification of the request, and that would capture all.
it was in, you're looking to further encapsulate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else might be out there, but I mean, we had one concern mentioned this morning.
Okay, 26.
Yes, that's what I was saying. I just thought for the larger companies, if they do a recorded line anyways, then if something were to happen, if, someone were to come back and say, I didn't cancel the policy, well, then you have it, it's recorded. So basically, just making the point that if they use a recorded line, then the insurance carrier should be able to have funds to, so we're on the same page.
Okay. Which one you want to do?
I've got a different question.
Okay. Okay, 15.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I was just sitting here thinking, I don't know what other could be. Are we going to, go to my doctor and get a chip put in so I can telepathically talk to my insurance agent and say, hey, I want to cancel this thing?
These short timers, I tell you.
I can't figure this out. I don't know what other could
Hey,
possibly be.
you didn't have cell phones 20 years ago, so.
Well, we didn't, so I guess that's what it'll be. Just tap my arm and.
He needs a lot more than a chip.
Yeah, thank you. You're right. And to the judge's comment, he's exactly right. When I had customers call in and say, "Hey, we've divorced. I'm taking my wife off the policy," I said, "Not today. You're not. Not till I get a phone number and I talk to her and make sure she's insured." So we don't take anybody off the policy unless we talk to the other party. So that was something we always instituted, Judge. I think that's going a little far on other, Mr. Chairman. That's all I wanted to say. I don't know what it could be. I have no idea what other is.
Okay. Number 20? That's you, Sean.
Oh, I'm 20. No, I was just going to ask the author real quick. If I call and cancel a credit card, I'm able to do that, am I not?
Yes.
Isn't there a process? I mean, there's nefarious behavior here and there. There's a process, I'm sure, by which I would imagine it probably falls very similar in line with what you've proposed here.
I would agree with that.
Okay, thank you.
24.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, not an original idea here, but what about adding the word in there, witnessed? I mean, we're trying to be sure, and I think the points are being well made here, that we want to be sure the cancellation is indeed valid, and there's not a he said, she said situation going on, so.
But that, and I understand what you're getting at, because I ask these same questions. But that stuff, those situations are already, like Chairman Maxwell said, that they still do these kind of procedures to ensure that a policy is being canceled correctly without malicious intent to cause harm to another party, that they already have these kind of procedures in place. And I mean, at the end of the day, they don't want litigation. They're going to make sure that they're covering themselves in every way possible.
Number 12.
Yeah, yes, sir. To my friend, the problem I see with this, and I too apologize, but if you were a larger agency and had 12 people working for you, the worst nightmare you can ever imagine if you've got somebody that takes a phone call, and then, as Chairman Maxwell said, within 5 hours or a week or whatever, they wreck that car and there's a serious claim. The E&O errors and omissions problems that could cause the agency, and maybe I really don't understand, if we're taught to get everything in writing, why we would take this. And I understand you can bind across the phone, but I just see that this is serious problems for agencies, and maybe and I, like Chairman Carson, I apologize for not saying something earlier, but I just can't see supporting this because of the implications for E&O claims on agencies.
And that's why we make it optional. It's not required. And so it's not forcing the insurance companies to do this or an agency to do this. It's just simply allowing the option And even on the claims part, or that you had mentioned, or the worry, that's why lines 21 and 22 are in there, to say that it shall be properly documented. Like, it is a shall document in policy file, not may, but shall document in policy file the request for cancellation along with the date of the requested cancellation.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we've got a motion on the floor for an amendment. Am I correct, Mr. Carson?
Are we going with other as well as?
No,
all?
well, we're just gonna go with his as of right now.
Chairman Maxwell can't think of any other. So I trust his judgment.
Can I make this, am I on, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I make this suggestion that we, on line 13, that we write written, comma, electronic, or other recorded verification? And that more or less is a catch-all, encapsulated, and it's a requirement to the author's point. Excuse me, I'm sorry. It's a option as per the author's point. Written, comma, electronic, or other recorded verification.
You have an issue with that?
No, sir.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, to the committee, I would ask for their indulgence on that amendment.
Okay, so it, beginning on line, starting on line 13, where it says provide written, comma, electronic, comma, or other recorded verification of the request.
Yes.
Okay. So you making that as a motion to amend? Do I hear a second? I have a motion and a second to amend it with that language. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Okay, that part passed. All right, so I don't see any more lights on. So what's the pleasure? Do I hear a motion do pass, or what's the pleasure of the committee? Do pass as amended. By substitute. Okay, do I have a second? So all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? No. Okay. It passed. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, committee. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, 9:38. I'll give you a little heads up. This is a department bill. Chairman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Today I bring you House Bill 938, and this bill amends existing code for credit insurance agent license or limited sub-agent license to allow an entity to obtain a license and oversee employees that sell or solicit these policies. It provides for issuance of a limited credit insurance agency license to a business entity. Agents must perform a background check and make sure that the employees would pass a background. And the agency must provide for 5 hours of training before an employee starts working and selling. The agency must maintain an up-to-date list for the commissioner to say who these folks are. The agency must maintain an up-to-date list of all locations where they have these subagents. This is a license issue where the department has been trying to modernize and get things better under control, cut some of the bureaucracy. And these are the same type of agents that work at places like car rental or when your bank, if you're going to get a credit loan. So it's very simple. Their main job is usually not selling insurance. They're there to help somebody process and buy something or purchase something. Are there any questions?
Anybody have a question as it relates to this 938? Okay, hearing none, I'm ready for a motion of some sort. Odo, got a question now.
I'm sorry, I was trying, and I apologize for not seeing this before. You talk about agency, and we're talking about entity here. The entity, that's the company that's hiring the agents?
Yeah, it would be like the car rental company that hires somebody that's renting you your car, and they offer, by the way, do you want our insurance? Or perhaps in a bank, do you want to buy the credit life to insure your loan if you should die. That's what we're talking about. They're loan people or people actually conducting something else.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. We got a motion to do pass and a second. Okay, all in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Like I said, that concludes our meetings as it relates to House bills. We will start the subcommittee process after next Wednesday on Senate bills. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good weekend.